So this is a recorded interview with Megan Twohey that was just 2 days after Blake filed her CRD complaint, and the interviewer, somebody called Shapiro, was saying, and it's not just the mechanics of how this machine operates, but also that it sprang from an allegation of sexual harassment and is entirely grounded in a gender imbalance on set, Blake Lively alleges. And Tui responds to that, yes, that's exactly right. And she told me, like, listen, this was actually not the worst that I have experienced in Hollywood. I've actually experienced far worse misconduct. You know, I spoke up because I wanted to address it, and I thought I had, and I never had any intentions of discussing this or going public with my accusations. And so to watch what happened next and to experience what she now is alleging was this complete campaign of retaliation, felt in many ways much more sinister than the underlying misconduct. Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy again, back with a new update, because it just gets sillier and sillier, this thing, and more obvious, I think. Am I getting a bit too biased here? Please do hit that like, subscribe and share if you can, because that all helps me. So now we have, and I don't know why none of us found it before. I'm blaming the ones that do a lot more work on this than I do for not finding this interview with Megan Tui before, between Ari Shapiro of NPR.org. I'm going to put the link to the article in the description box so you can read it for yourself. So this is this interview with Megan Tui, and you just listen to that excerpt of it at the start. So it's a really interesting read when you factor in that happened 2 days after the CRD was filed. So it's interesting to note how Blake Lively was intending not to make this public and didn't want it to be known, and yet somehow she files the CRD as if that won't get picked up by anybody, and somehow, consequently, simultaneously, the New York Times finds out about it and gets hold of all of the information from the Van Shan subpoena. In the interview, Megan Tui says it's all this information that she got via subpoena, not from where that subpoena heralded from. But it's interesting, isn't it? The two don't gel. Blake somehow didn't want it to go public. It was just her doing her due diligence of standing up for the rights of people on the set, but yet somehow all of the other things happened at the same time. The New York Times get it, there's a subpoena involved, they get all of that thousands of pages of information that they keep claiming that they had. And I kind of dispute this idea of thousands of pages of evidence that they went through. Potentially there was, but if so, that was all like from Jen Abel's phone, wasn't it? Or Jen Abel's cloud or Google storage or whatever it was. So this is like, it's like, how many more times do we have to say it? There was no issue. She's saying that the SH that she experienced wasn't that bad, that she's experienced far worse on set. And we've seen evidence of this so-called SH in the video. The dance montage video, if that's what she's calling SH, what does she actually call real SH? It's a complete fantasy, and it all goes back to that thing of the real point of all of this is that she couldn't stand the negative press. She wanted it all her way, and she was getting it all her way. She had that set running with everybody in fear of her, and everything was going exactly what she wanted. She got her edit, she got her cut, it was all going well, her plan was working perfectly, but the only thing she hadn't factored in was her own character, her own personality, her own flippancy, her own talent for putting her foot in her mouth. That's the one thing she hadn't factored in on. If she hadn't been the person that she is, she would have got away with all of it, because she wouldn't have shot herself in the back, would she, with it all. So they're saying basically here that there may have been one or two things that she was uncomfortable with, but it was not SH by any person's stretch of the imagination. There was no SH. That's why they don't talk about it anymore in things. It's like, let's not just highlight that. Like, they're focused on the retaliation. That's what they're focused on. That is what the the payoff they will want in terms of financial compensation. It will really be, focused on the retaliation aspect from their point of view. But at some point in time, she will be forced to produce Taylor Swift's text messages. Her friend, who you would logically expect to be discussing how she feels on this set and whether she feels like she's under pressure from Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni, whether they're doing sexually inappropriate things. It will be interesting to see just how much of a good friend Taylor is in let's see how much is shared between them, or if it's very kind of run-of-the-mill, mundane, ordinary things, or whether it is actually anything in-depth and of real substance, and is actually about shared emotions and shared feelings. It'd be interesting to see what that is. I'm thinking that it will be kind of mean-spirited things that Blake shares, but who knows? And I think you'll just get a taste of how she describes fellow human beings and things like that, and the kind of disdain she has for people. That is what I would expect to see coming from those text messages. And she might say things like, oh, tried to show me a video today or whatever. But I honestly, it'd be interesting to see how much, if that kind of thing is shared, how much Taylor is actually interested in it. It's going to be very, very interesting. But when you read this article, the SH aspect is basically brushed under the carpet. So it really is about the retaliation aspect. And I think many of us now, most of us, realise that, it's interesting that Megan Twohey, who presumably should be classed as a smart person, that even this interview skews very much on Believe Blake, because it mentions things like the smear campaign and how you can't find it. But she also says about what Blake is alleging, but there's no mention of she can't prove it either. Somehow it's a one-sided proving thing. You just believe Blake, but he has to prove it. So it's just a nonsense, really, and deeply unfair, really, that this legislation, this story, this case is skewed towards believe her. She's like standing up for women's and girls' rights and whatever, and he's got to prove everything. And it also, there's a little bit of a gleeful tone in the fact of he lost his award. His award was rescinded. This award Justin won from he got the Voices of Solidarity Award from the women's non-profit Vital Voices, and that was rescinded fairly quickly when everything came out about the CRD, and they made quite a nasty statement about it as well. It's like, this is the kind of person he is. It's like literally just straight away, like take everything away from him. So that happened, didn't it? And in this interview, quite gleefully saying that he was dropped by his agency, as if that validates that it's true. As if the fact that an awards body on first hearing something straight away says, we'll have that award back, thanks, we won't investigate, we won't look into that more, that straight away his agency says, we're dropping you, we don't want anything to do with you, before anything is proved. As if, and here, this Megan Tui, smart lady, is like kind of implying, well, that implies it's true then, doesn't it? It's like the story is there, the story is real, she doesn't have to prove it. And it literally even says they asked for comment from people, but it doesn't specify that they didn't give him a chance to properly respond. So it's absolutely appalling, really. It truly is appalling. Even if Justin has actually done some things wrong, as some people believe, it kind of is a small minority at this point. I genuinely feel that there will have been some times where there was a miscommunication and people chose Blake specifically chose to believe whatever she wanted to believe and chose to spin it a certain way because that fit her narrative. That is what I feel has happened. That doesn't make it true. It makes it what she wants to feel and what she wants to read into it to further her own narrative, which is what she was doing all along. And it finally just hit the wall when people said, oh, look what she's doing here. Look what she's saying here. Look how she's promoting her hair care line. Look how she's brought booze into a domestic violence movie promotion. That is what people didn't like. And they didn't like how she treated Kirsty Floor and everybody else that was out there. Every interview that came up where she's sitting in front of a male journalist on a promo tour for that shark movie, and she makes him take his top off and puts his top on and makes him sit there half naked. People do not like these kinds of things. They don't like mean bullies making people do things under pressure, just like making people sign 17-point lists and then further down the line turning it into a 30-point list that they'd never ever seen. And remember that 17-point list, that coercion list, so that she'd come back to work, most of that was already in place anyway, and they wouldn't let him argue the points that he didn't agree with, because they said, nope, you agreed to all of it. It's not a negotiation, otherwise she doesn't come back. And they were halfway through making a movie. So you tell me. You drop your comments below and let me know what you think. But to me, everything that's coming out is just like, what case has she got left at this point? She cannot prove a smear campaign. She's wanting anything and everything from everybody in the whole universe that basically ever breathed on this film. Because she has no case, because she's desperately looking for information. And the time is coming where she has to produce her evidence. Her evidence, where is it? So, I'm a bit on a one today. But yeah, please do hit that like, subscribe and share if you can, and let me know your thoughts below.